Hey guys, it's Kylie, and in today's video I'm going to teach you how to make a Disney ear Christmas ornament. So today I'm going to be showing you how to make one of these Disney ear Christmas ornaments. I'm not going to be making a mini one specifically, I'm going to be making a genie themed one, but I'm just going to go through the process. It's very similar if you've ever made ears or seen my video on how to make Disney ears. Similar to that, but on a much smaller scale, as we are making a small Christmas ornament. I saw this design in a Facebook group I'm in, and I thought I'd just show you an in-depth tutorial where there's not a lot of in-depth tutorials out there, and how I make them and how it's the easiest way I found to make them. I will say I made a few templates for these, so I'm just going to explain what these templates are. So the one that says plastic ring, this is based on the length of the quote-unquote headband I'm using, how much I want to cut the fabric. Believe it's about an inch wide, and I have to measure it out, and about a little over 7 inches long. It's like 7¼ inches long, is how I have it. I also made a template for the cardboard, and for this you can use like a sewing thread if you have that. I use like a cap to something, and then this one you want to make a little bit bigger, and to make the little curve you base it off of the curve of your ring. This is a shower curtain ring, a plastic shower curtain ring that I cut off. And that's kind of where I got the headband piece. And then this one you want bigger. I actually like to have this even bigger than this when I actually cut my fabric, and you'll see that when I show you that. But I made some templates to use for that. Another thing you're going to need, some trim, some fabric for your ears, some fabric for your bow, a hot glue gun, some cardboard, some scissors, and a Sharpie of some kind to just mark it, or like a pen to mark out where you're going to do. So I'm going to actually switch you down to the table so you can see everything I'm doing as I do it, and I'll kind of explain as we go what I'm doing. Okay, so this is what I have in front of me, and to start off, we're going to start off with the cardboard itself, and we're going to take our smaller circular thing that we made, and we're going to trace out 4 of these on the cardboard. I like to trace them out on the cardboard that has the words on it, just so I know where they are. It doesn't matter if the cardboard has some words, because one side's going to be on the inside and nobody's going to be able to see it. So really nobody's going to see the cardboard at all. But I like to trace it out on the side that the words are. So I just go around and trace out 4 of these. Okay, so I just finished tracing out 4 of these, and then the next step is to cut them out. So I always cut the cardboard first, just so I have it ready. So you just kind of go around your line and cut out the different ones. This one you want to try to make sure that they're all even, so at the end I would line them up and make sure that they're all about the same size, as you are going to be putting them together next to each other when you're gluing together. The key about this is that you want to cut them on the lines and not avoid the lines. Where later we're going to be cutting actually like kind of outside the lines. So just cut these out of your cardboard. So I cut out my 4 cardboard pieces, and I'm just going to throw my scraps in the trash next to me or to the side. So that's what you need for those. The next thing I'm going to do is cut the fabric itself. So this is the printed fabric. I'm going to cut this in kind of 5 different ways. I'm going to do 4 ears, so it's the bigger ear design, and one called for the plastic ring, because I like my plastic ring to match the ear design. So for this, I'm just going to lay out the fabric. As this one has different genie designs, you want to make sure that you're getting a design that you want to see on your ears. So I just kind of take this and figure out, okay, which genie do I think would look good on it. I'm going to start with this one right here and just kind of line them up, so I'm getting as much of the genie as I can be. And then I'm going to take my marker, and I actually like to go a little bit bigger than the way I cut this, because I cut this a little bit smaller than I was hoping. You just want to make sure that your bigger one is at least like a half of inch to a quarter of an inch, a quarter of an inch to a half of an inch larger, just the way it goes around the fabric versus the way it goes around the cardboard and gluing it. So you want to draw this out. I like to draw it a little bit bigger than the way I cut it. The other key thing about this, when you're cutting it, you just draw the outside ring. You do not draw the little small inside curved ring. That I usually just draw 2 lines that go like straight vertical from where I meet the corners, because you want a little extra fabric flap, and I'll show you that once I cut it. But I'm just going to go around and pick 4 different genie prints to use for my thing, and you can pick any 4 fabric pieces that you want to use for yours. So I traced out my 4 different genies. The other thing that I will trace out, but I'm going to trace it out actually after I cut this, is this strip for the plastic ring. So I'm going to cut the 4 genies out, and then I'm going to trace out and do the plastic ring strip. So I just take it. You can take any scissors, especially if you have fabric scissors, I would use those. But you want to cut a little extra tab on the end, and I'll show you when I finish one what you want, and then you just cut around the circle. This one doesn't have to be as perfect on the circle because you are going to be gluing it. You just want to make sure that it's like even as much around as you can. This is what you're going to be putting over that piece of cardboard that you did. So this is my first one. These are pretty easy to cut. So this is what I have, and I have this little extra tab on the bottom, so it doesn't make a perfect circle, but that's because we're going to fold it over once we stuff it. That's why you want this bigger, is because they are going to get stuffed, and that's the other thing you're going to need for this is some stuffing. I didn't pull it up on the table because it's so big, the stuffing container I have, but I will be showing you that in a little bit. So there's my 4 strips of fabric, like 4 little circles for my ears, and I'm going to put those with my cardboard. My cardboard's right here, slightly out of frame, so I'm just going to put those over that. And now I'm going to cut the strip for my plastic ring, and I'm going to do it along this side. So this side doesn't have like the little fuzz on it, or like the like scrap edge, so I'm going to do it along that side. This is right near where I cut. It's just kind of like opposite of where I cut. I'm actually going to do it right next to where I cut just because it's already pre-cut right there. So I like to just kind of lay this template down. This was a rough template I made while making another one, but I just lay it down, kind of trace it out, just so I get an idea of how long to make it. And then I just cut that out, and that's what I'm going to be using to cover that. I know I didn't show you cutting the plastic ring itself, just because we just used some sharp scissors. So like my dad had tool scissors. We just use that, and as long as you have enough strength, it's a lot of hand grip strength. You just literally just cut where the clip is. I can show you one that's, I don't have any right now that have the clip still on them, but there was like a little clip because they're a shower curtain ring, and you literally just cut on each side of the clip to get to this size. So I now have the strip, and this is going to be the strip that kind of goes over this to cover this, so you don't actually realize it's a shower curtain ring. And then the last thing I'm going to currently cut is the stuff to make the bow. I'm going to save this to the end because I need to trace it out based on the length of what we make. I'm going to cut the bow. I have this huge sheet of white fabric, so I'm just going to find a spot that is not already cut to use. And for the bow, I find that a good size bow, based on the way I make my bows, is 4 inches down. Like it's a 4x4 square. So I'm just going to draw quickly a nice little mark for a 4x4 square. And then I'm also going to need a strap for the bow. So I'll just cut another little rectangle with that. So there's my 4x4 square, and with it I'm just going to cut another little rectangle next to it to use as the center for my bow. And now it's time to start gluing everything together. Okay, so I just plugged in my hot glue gun. I just have a mini hot glue gun that I got at like Walmart, and it's now heated up, ready to go. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take my cardboard and I'm gonna flip over all 4 of my different little designs. You wanna make sure that the like extra flap, like extra tab thing is on the bottom. And then on this, you wanna make sure that the number side, or the side that has any sort of printing or words on it, is up, facing up towards you, or the side that even has the Sharpie outline, because you don't wanna be seeing that side when you're done. And that will end up on the inside of the ear. So what you're gonna do is just like in the big ears, you're gonna go around and make a little border, and you wanna do this slowly because it dries pretty quickly. So you just wanna go around, and as you do that, you're just gonna fold up the fabric onto it. So I'm just gonna go around, do that, and as I go around, I just fold up each one of the fabrics. You don't wanna close the tab, you wanna leave that part open, so you're just going around the main part of the circle and folding up the fabric. You don't want to pull in the fabric either, you just kind of want to fold what's there up because you want to be able to add stuffing later. So that first one, nice and easy, and then you have your genie on the outside, and once we fill him with stuffing, he'll look even better. So I'm just going to go around and do the other 3 with that. Okay, so I have my 4 ears done, and I'm just going to let those dry, and I'm going to move on to a different step for now, just to make sure that their glue's done before I try to put the stuffing in and I don't accidentally pop the glue. So I'm going to move on to doing my like kind of headband thing, and the easiest way I found to now wrap a headband or this thing is you put a little glue on the inside, and then you take one of your ends. You don't want to go exactly from the end, so you have a little extra fabric, but one of the sides, and you fold over and put that in there. You kind of want it to cover about a little bit more than half, and then you slowly go around and follow that seam so that the edge of your fabric is lined up with the like middle part of your thing. So this is like your ring, it would be the same as your headband. And if you're watching this really just wondering how to make ears, it's the same thing, just on a larger scale. This is just a miniature scale on how to do it. I do have another video that kind of shows more of the proportions for making ears. If you want to check that out, I'll have it linked up in the iCard. But I'm just going around. I gotta grab another glue stick. I bought these like little mini ones. They're very short, so I go through them like crazy. They were just cheaper than for the amount of glue you were getting than buying a couple big ones. But you're just going around, and you want it to cover about halfway through the headband or ring, and then when you come to the end, you just kind of finish it. So you should have a little bit of extra fabric on each side. Usually on the second end I end up with more just because of the way I center it. And then what you take is you take the fabric and you just fold it over. You just want to be very careful that you're not pulling on it too much, but you kind of fold it over like this, and then you pull on it enough so that it's kind of flush with the headband, so you're not getting a ton of creases. But doing this I just found is so much easier than trying to cut little tabs on the fabric to make sure it looks good and fits around, and gluing it from the top. I find gluing it underneath like this is so much easier. And then you're gonna do the same thing and glue down the other side to it. So I'm just gonna go around and do that. That fabric template size worked well because when you turned it over, you didn't end up with this extra fabric kind of looking out the front and overdoing, and then you had to cut it down because this is going to be the back, where the fabric fold is. On a normal headband, these two would meet in the middle, and you'd put a strip of ribbon through it, but I don't find it's necessary on the little one to add a strip of ribbon, just because you don't really notice it that much, and it's not like you're trying to wear it on your head and it might fall apart. The next thing we're going to do is fold down these sides. So you want to just take a little bit of glue and put it down there and just fold over the little edges to kind of make a little end to it. So that's what I do here. This one's a little long, so I'm actually going to trim it down before I do that. So I'm just going to take my scissors and trim off a little bit. So you could make it a little bit shorter strip. I just rather have extras just in case, depending on the way I line it up initially. So I'm going to just put a little dabble of glue, and I just usually fold it over and then take it and like kind of fold it over like a triangle back on itself. I might need another second of a little thing of glue and then fold it back on itself. So this is kind of what our headband turns out like. It's got like the genie on it, but super awesome, and you don't really notice that it's a clear plastic shower ring. And these little ends help to kind of cushion what you had cut just in case that was sharp. I usually sand it down, but that just kind of helps with that. The next thing we're going to do is stuff our ears. So I'm going to take a bunch of this polyfill stuffing that I have, and This is way more than I need. I'm just going to take a little bit right there and just take a little bit and stuff it. I have a little tool that came with my polyfill stuffing. It's this like little wooden tool. I find that that helps for me to be able to stuff it. But if I did the ears right, or at least loose enough, which I think some of these might be, I can usually get a finger in to stuff them. You want to make sure, the big thing about this, that you're not bending the cardboard when you're stuffing them, so you're not overstuffing them. Just because if you bend the cardboard, it's going to be hard for the two items to kind of go next to each other. I like this because it helps me get into the little creases and stuff. And this is probably way too much stuffing for this one, so I'm just going to take some of the excess out. But I just want to make sure that I fill the whole ear to like my desired amount. I prefer the ears when they're stuffed. I just think they look prettier and more finished versus the flat ones. So I just stuffed up my little poof one, and then I'm going to go through and stuff my other three. So I have my 4 stuffed ears. The next thing I'm going to do is close them. So I'm going to take a little bit of my hot glue and put it right here on the little curve. I might move it up a little bit too. And then I just take this and I fold it over with the way the curve is. And usually on these, you do have a little excess, so you just kind of go through with your scissors and cut down the excess. I just rather have more to make sure I fully close the seal of that. So I just kind of cut that down. And I'm going to do that for each one, just putting a little glue on it and closing it down. You don't really need a lot of polyfill with this. I have a massive bag that I got a while ago for a project. But as you saw, I didn't really use a lot of it. Just like a little ball of it is all you really need. So I had so much extra that I pulled out. I just pulled out the amount I pulled out is what I usually pull out when I'm doing like multiple pairs of ears at once, and like regular size ears, which just use a lot more. But for the little Christmas ornaments, you don't need a lot. So I'm just going down and gluing down each one of the sides so that they have a nice little seal to the polyfill, and that way they have the border edge that they're going to be put up against when they are connected to the headband, or the shower curtain ring, really. But I'm going to keep calling it a headband because that's like what it is representing in our ear ornaments. So I have my 4 little balls here, and now the decision comes to which ones do I want on the front versus which ones do I want on the back. So looking at this, I think my front is going to be this poof one. And I think my other front is going to be the genie with the hat. So I just feel like how full each one of those are, and then how full the other 2 are. And the ones that are fuller, I'm going to kind of put those opposite, and then these 2. So I'm going to put these 2 together, and then these 2 together. And to do that, I just put a little glue across the back, and I hold them together. So I just place them together. You want to make sure that they're even, so that their curves are even when you go to put them on the headband. And you just want to hold them together, make sure that they glue nice and tightly together, because we're going to be filling in these gaps with trim. You just want to make sure that they're even on the bottom, so it's easy once you go to put them on your band. So I'm going to do that with the other pair too. Make sure I have them nice and even, and push those together just so that the glue kind of dries a little bit in that position and they don't move around. So now I'm just going to kind of clean up my area for a moment and just swipe that to the side. The next thing I'm going to do is the bow. So while those are just gluing together, I'm going to do the bow. So I'm going to take our piece of fabric and I'm going to put 2 strips of glue across it and fold both of the top and bottom ends into the middle. Just to kind of make it like an even fold, and it gets rid of those ends. The next thing I do is I put 2 strips down the middle sides, like the short sides, and I fold in those 2 ends. And now these are probably going to stick up a little bit, so I usually just put a little dollop of glue on the inside of those, so those 2 ends stick in, and a little dollop of glue on the inside of those. When I make the big bows, I do a little bit more folding, but I find it's not really necessary with these. I don't need it to look exactly perfect, because it is just a Christmas ornament. It's not like something I'm going to be wearing around a ton, but I do try to make them look as nice as I can. And for this, I'm doing the same thing that I would do on a regular big strip, just kind of folding in the edges so that it doesn't look like overly large and the cuts aren't there. It looks a little bit more smooth. So I'm just folding in the edges to make it look like that. Adding a little bit glue to the very ends of that. And now for my bow itself, I'm going to take this piece and I'm going to fold it up and then back. You kind of do like a wave form to it, like making like a paper fan. If you ever made those as a kid, that's kind of what I think of it as. You just want to make sure you keep it both sides even. I'm going to fix this just because of the way they came apart. So you just kind of fold it back and forth, making in this paper fan way. And then when you get to the end, I like to have both the top and the bottom facing the same direction at the end. So I make sure that both the top and the bottom are facing towards the back. That's just the way I like it. I put a little bit of glue. So there's should be 2 creases on the front to put glue in and 3 creases on the back. This part you got to be very careful that you don't burn yourself when you're trying to hold the bow together but still putting hot glue in that area. And then I put some hot glue in the different creases on the back. And then the next thing I'm going to do is take my strip. I'm going to put a little dollop of glue on the back and attach. I like to take whatever the skinnier end of my strip is and attach it there, and then just loop my strip around the bow a few times. I usually do 2 or 3 times depending on the length of the strip. This one I'm going to do 2. And then at the end I usually fold this very end under, and then I take a little dollop of glue, put it right in the middle, and fold the bent piece over. So this is what it kind of looks like. This is the front of my bow. I usually fiddle around with it to make sure it looks the way I want, but I have the front of my bow right here, and the back of my bow is right there, and that's going to be glued on. The next thing I do is take the trim, and I'm going to glue that to the edges of this. So I'm going to just take some glue and put it in the corner, and take my trim and just start placing it in, and I'm going to go all the way around with my trim, placing it in around the edges. I just find it makes it look a little bit more finished than not having trim. And doing it with this, if you did like a sew method, it's hard to do a sew method with the little ears, but if you do it with your big ears, you don't need trim as much, but I just find it makes it look a little bit more complete. I know like none of the real Disney ears have it, but most of the homemade ones do. I just find it makes it look complete. And then I cut off the end in there. So this is kind of what our little ornament looks like for that ear. It's going to be that side, and then I'm going to go around and do the other ear right now. So one other thing I'm going to do is just cut a little loop of rope. This is like a rope trim. It's just what I use to hang the ornament itself. So I just want to cut a little loop, and we're going to use that when we're putting it all together. So now it's time to put it all together. So the first thing I'm going to do is make sure that the way the fabric that's on top is facing is in the back. And I'm going to take my 2 ears and the way I want them in the front. And I'm going to take them and put them on, just kind of make sure they look even. And then I'm going to glue them on. So I'm going to take some glue, put it in the little circle part of it, and then take the headband and hold it on and just push it together. You want to make sure they're on before you let go, just so that they're together. And there's a nice pressure on them. And then I'm going to do that with the other ear. At the end, you're probably going to want to take off some of the glue strings or extra fabric strings that you see. But I just like to, I do that at the end. And I'm pushing this one on too, so we have a nice little even ears. The next thing we're going to glue on is the rope. So I take a little dollop of glue on the back of in between the ears, put that on, and I take the 2 ends of the rope and stick those in. These are going to get covered by the headband, by the bow, so it's okay if they're sticking forward a little bit. You're not really going to notice that. And then on top of those, I stick a little dollop of glue on top, and that dollop of glue is to hold the bow. So I usually put the folded end on the bottom and stick my bow right on that dollop of glue, and then I just make sure it looks even on the front, and I push down so that it's secure into that glue as that glue is drying. The next thing I do is put some glue on the back of the bow. So I'm just gonna add some more glue to my glue gun and put some glue on the back of the bow, and then I fold the strings up so that they stay straight up. Now this one you want to be careful that the glue's not too hot when you're doing it, because you are pushing some of the glue around a little bit, so I push them up. And I actually put a little glue on the very back and wait for that to dry, so it's more of like a tackiness, and just to secure the strings together. I find that that's a good method to get that all together. So once that dries a little bit and it's not gonna burn my finger, I usually just rub it out a little bit to make sure that these two strings are glued together and are gonna hold. So that's kind of the way it looks. I sometimes add a little dollop of glue on the inside to make sure that the bow kind of positions the way I want it to and has the right folds to it. So that's kind of personal preference on if you want to do that. Just kind of gets the bow to stick to the ears themselves. And there you go. There's your little genie Christmas ornament. I hope you guys enjoyed watching this tutorial on how to make one. Let me know in the comments down below if you have any questions or if you make one. I'd love to check out, and you can send me pictures through my Instagram or tag me in pictures if you post any on your Instagram. I would love to check them out. And now I'm going to send you to my Advent opening for today. Hey guys, welcome back to another Advent opening. Today we have day number 12, as it is the 12th. So another super awesome pin to add to our collection. Hoping to maybe see something new. We've seen a couple different sets already, but I know I bought some other sets, so hoping maybe this one is something new. And let's see what it is when we open it up. Ooh, I really like this one. This is something new. It is one of these Small World pins. It is actually Small World Adios. And it is a dancing cactus with a bird. That's about as close to best way I could describe that for you, as a dancing cactus with a bird. Super awesome pin. Definitely a fun one. I don't think I've seen that one in person before, but that's a super awesome set. I understand why people really like this set. That's definitely a super awesome one, and it's a new one and a new set to add to our pin tree, which is super awesome. We're almost completing the sets of like the amount of pins that I got from sets, but super awesome to add a new one. We're actually gonna put it right here on the tree as like a 5th pin to this row. Super awesome for day number 12. Another great addition to our tree, and so far our tree's already filling up. We got a couple of the Tiny Kingdoms, a couple of the Haunted Mansions, a couple Current Moods, some Star Wars, and now an Adios, and we do have 1 pixel pin on there, which is super awesome. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's video and our Advent opening. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you did, and I will see you in tomorrow's Vlogmas video. Bye!
Dashing through the snow in a one-horse open